I think it is really important to recognize that no matter if you come from a local school right away, a pre-professional school, you've gone to summer intensives or not, the common path to becoming a professional dancer is often Hey dancers, it's Kirsten. Welcome back to Twin Talks Ballet. I hope you're clicking on this video after watching the first video I made about how many different ways there are to be a professional dancer, but hey, if not, that's okay because this video stands on its own. Today I'm going to be talking about all the different ways I can think of, all the different paths there are to becoming a professional dancer. I specifically wanted to make this video because I've personally, as a mindset coach, worked with so many dancers who are really worried and just anxious that they won't be able to be a professional dancer because they didn't start training seriously at 12 years old and go to a professional school at 14 and win all the ballet competitions. And I think there are just so many misconceptions about how many unique paths there are to getting to the professional level. I hope you really are inspired by today's video and that it gives you a sense of kind of comfort and peace of mind that getting to that level where you have that professional title isn't like a process of following a formula, not by any means. I want to make this video to just open your mind to how many different paths are available. Maybe it gives you some inspiration as well as to how you can actually pivot to optimize your training, to optimize your chances of attaining your goals. So if you're interested in listening to my ideas that I have about how many paths there are, keep on watching. Okay, so the first path I'm going to talk about was my path, which is that I grew up at a small studio, which was really just a recreational ballet studio. It was ballet focused, but they really taught all styles of dance. Each class only had 2 days of dancing a week. And so what I did is when I decided I really loved ballet, I just started taking different levels of classes, like lower levels, in order to dance 4 days a week. I really just doubled up and tripled up on how many different classes I took. So I was dancing every day, and then we would rehearse on the weekend. So I grew up at a small studio, and when I decided I wanted to become a professional, understandably, my parents weren't like, okay, at 14, I'm going to ship you off to go to a professional school because, okay, first, that takes a lot of money. Second, a lot of parents reasonably still want to parent their children when they are still very much children. And, you know, maybe it makes sense that they didn't want me to like move to New York at 13. Totally not judging anyone as a parent if they decide that. What I did is I stayed training at that small studio year round until I was 17, despite the fact that it was not really pre-professional training. I was actually able to take morning classes. This was unique, but there were a couple of professional dancers that were really just getting a small stipend every month, and there were adult dancers who did the lead roles in our school production. So I took morning class with them. I would take as many evening classes as I could with the small, you know, like recreational studio. And then what I did is I really focused on trying to get into the best summer intensives I possibly could in order to gain exposure. And then from there, I ended up training pre-professionally at Houston Ballet Academy from 17 to 19. I took a gap year in order to train there an extra year. Then I went to college at the University of Utah. I was a ballet major there. And that wasn't because I necessarily didn't have enough training at that point. It's a long story. I needed that for me. And then from there, I got a professional contract with Oklahoma City Ballet. So anyway, that was like my story right there, but I wanted just to say that is a journey that many people don't consider, that you can go to summer intensives despite being at a small studio. And if you need to, you know, apply for scholarships and financial aid. But really the point is to gain exposure and awareness of, I don't like this word, but like what's the standard out there? What's the competition? Again, don't love the word competition, but it kind of is true. It was really important for me to learn from different teachers, and I like obsessively tried to retain everything I learned at these summer programs, and then I held myself accountable to what I remember being taught in the summer. Like I worked it out throughout the whole year, and that's kind of the way that I stayed focused and on that professional track, even though I wasn't at a pre-professional school until I was older. So of course, there are so many different ways that your path can sort out. You can grow up at a small studio and stay there and never go to a year-round program. But I would say what is a necessary component is exposure. So maybe the way you gain exposure to different teachers and just different dancers and understanding what is that standard of excellence, what is the professional standard, because no, you cannot accurately learn it by just watching ballet performances or just looking at pictures in Point Magazine or on Instagram. What I think is really necessary is to learn the standard of students your age who are at the top of the field. That is really, really necessary, because those are really the most helpful people to kind of see if you're measuring up to, rather than, you know, the professional dancer who's like 30. You're not going to be dancing like them. You're not going to have the same physical capacity as them because you're like 14 and they're 30. And so that's not going to be very helpful beyond just for inspiration and just perspective. Or you can also, you know, gain perspective and exposure at summer intensives. You can do it through going to a year-round program for a year, at the end of high school, at the beginning, whatever it is. Exposure is the necessary component, I believe. Another path is joining a pre-professional school. If you're lucky enough to live in a big city, like trying to get in there and train from a young age, or, you know, moving to go. That is an option, and trying to get into that company from the school. That is a way to go, or also using your experience there in that place on your resume to maybe get opportunities or exposure to different guest teachers coming in, or choreographers who can connect you with other opportunities. So you can really transfer to a classical ballet pre-professional program at any age throughout high school, before high school even. You can do it when you're 13, you're 14, 15, all the way through 18, sometimes 19 even. I've known dancers who are up to 20 years old, maybe 21 in some pre-professional programs. That's not as common, but it's certainly possible. So before counting yourself out, if that's something you want to do, even if the ballet school has an age limit on their website that you're beyond, I've known dancers who have auditioned anyway and who have gotten in. So just ask, just pursue it anyway if that's what you want. There's also the college route. Okay, so if you want to particularly be a professional ballet dancer, here is my advice. Yes, college will give you 3 to 4 years, maybe 5, of additional ballet training. However, what I think is really important to know is that if you want to be in a classical ballet company and you're really betting on college as being like your pre-professional training, in most ballet programs, or rather dance programs, it is really important to be aware that though I really believe that many dance programs in college are certainly valuable, I had a very valuable experience. I think it's really, really important to know that that exposure element to professional training, or people who aren't going the college route, that is critical. So what I always recommend is that if you're going to college and you haven't trained at a pre-professional school before, or you haven't been to really top level summer intensives, still go to summer intensives while you're in college, or audition for companies in summer intensives every year. Straight up, even if you don't intend on going to them, audition. Why? First, you need to get good at the audition process. Second, you need to know what's going to be expected of you. Third, you need to be witnessing other dancers who are coming from these top pre-professional schools and seeing what they're like, so that you can get perspective on what standard you'll be held to once it's senior year and you want to audition for companies. You need to have that perspective in your training, because y'all, it is so easy, I'll say this, to lose perspective in college. It's fun, it's great, it's an awesome learning opportunity. I learned so much valuable information and I grew tremendously as a dancer in college, but I believe it's because I had perspective. It is so easy to get in that college bubble, and just because you're getting good roles in college, think that you're all good, but you're totally outside or disconnected from the actual professional realm you want to be a part of. So I say dabble as much as humanly possible, get that perspective, get some connections, get some experience outside of your college bubble, so that you, like, even if your professors aren't like holding you to that professional standard that you know how to hold yourself up to it. So I think it is really important to recognize that no matter if you come from a local school right away, a pre-professional school, you've gone to summer intensives or not, the common path to becoming a professional dancer is often paved by first starting in one of these positions. Hey dancers, I wanted to just briefly pause before we go on to the next point in this video to talk about unique ways that I would be happy to help you as a mindset coach for dancers and also the creator of a unique program called the Mindset Plus Movement Technique Accelerator Program. So this program is really a series of private lessons held over Zoom where I combine the power of high-level technical instruction that allows you to make key shifts in your technique using kinesiologically sound principles that help you to actually improve quite quickly, working with the knowledge of how your body actually works and empowering you with knowledge for how to create change in things like your turnout, your extensions, whatever you are particularly frustrated or insecure about in your technique. I want to help you with that. And I also bring into these sessions mindset coachings because so often what is actually inhibiting us from not only improving in our technique, but being confident in the dancers we see in the mirror is our mind. So I love that I created this program, which really has a holistic approach to help dancers increase their confidence and also see a noticeable and quick improvement in their technical abilities. This is perfect for you if you're at that pre-professional level or also just a really passionate recreational dancer and you want to see an improvement in your technique, maybe during spring break or prior to going to a summer program, or really at any point that you really want a boost in your training. This program is perfect for you. So if you're interested, visit kirstenkemp.com. Link is in the description, where you can learn a lot more about the features of this program, how it works, and apply, which is as a trainee, where you either won't get paid at all or you will pay to be a part of the trainee program. For example, I believe at like Ballet West, at least a couple of years ago, they had their trainees pay because they were really treating it more as a training program rather than like, oh, we're using you in our professional productions and not really training you, which is important to discover before you just decide, oh, I want to dance for this company. I don't care if I'm just a trainee there. Please recognize that there are some companies that haven't really built out their trainee program to train the dancers or provide value back to the dancers. It's kind of like you're just there to have the parts that a lot of people don't want and no one's looking out for you and no one's training you and you're just kind of there. Honestly, I've seen a lot of dancers quit because they're miserable as trainees. So I don't say that to instill fear. There are some marvelous experiences and programs out there, I'm sure. But just be aware that you might start as a trainee. You might start as a second company member where maybe you're unpaid. Maybe you are paid with a small amount or a monthly stipend. Maybe you get your point you cost covered or you don't. And it might be kind of like a hybrid or a liaison between a ballet school and a company, or that second company might be treated more like a little company of its own and it tours, or you might be an apprentice. It might be an unpaid position. It might also be a paid position, but just a very low amount. And you're really treated as a company member, but a little bit more like on trial for a year or so. And you can definitely get into a trainee program, second company, or an apprenticeship from auditioning, just coming from a local school. Obviously, you'd have to be really good, but it's still possible, from a college program or a pre-professional program. Either of those paths can work to getting your foot in the door in one of those positions. Now, another path I want to mention is the competition route. It is not one I am personally familiar with, as I did YAGP one time at 17 years old, and I just, it's fun, but yep, I didn't like really make a thing of it. So this route is actually very fruitful for some dancers I know. Some dancers I have known personally grow up going to a ballet studio that is, they actually do offer really good serious training for just being a local school, and they really focus on preparing their students to go to these ballet competitions, international ballet competition or YGP, some Prix de Lausanne, although I notice a lot of dancers who go to Prix de Lausanne, if you know what that is, they are the ones who are like hand chosen from top schools and they audition to go. be in this competition. You actually have to audition for it. So that's definitely one of the world's most prestigious competitions. I know dancers who have done competitions like YGP since they were 12, 10 even, and that is a really formative part of their training experience because they're really working on being excellent at performing and variations. They're often like very good. So I do think competitions are a wonderful way to not only get better training because the preparation process itself trains you so much, and also variations are very hard, and so if you master them you're probably at an advantage as a dancer. And then, well, secondly, why I think competitions are a great path to becoming a professional is there are almost always different people scouting talent at these competitions. They are offering scholarships to summer programs. They are offering, you know, second company positions, trainee positions, professional positions. And so you never know who is watching or who is at a competition watching you perform, who really likes what they see. I've personally known dancers who've gotten amazing opportunities that ended up getting their foot in the door in a professional company because they did competitions consistently and they gain exposure through that. You can also get exposure to different teachers, gain a lot of great training and connections in the workshop or training components of these competitions. Because if you don't know anything about competitions, it's not just that you go perform, but there's often also like a workshop associated where you get to do master classes all day with different teachers. So that's a great way to gain both training and exposure. I also want to mention lastly that there are many paths to becoming a professional in terms of age. So I'll say age and also unconventional paths like taking a year off. Like that doesn't mean it will be impossible for you to be a dancer. I just want to say that. Some dancers I've known had to take a year off due to injuries, family reasons, just personal reasons, life circumstances, and then they came back around to training really intensely for like 3 months. They auditioned and they got back in the professional realm. So it is possible to take a break. Let's dispel that myth. Secondly, in terms of age, yes, you're probably not going to be considered for a trainee position or a second company position after the age of, let's say, like 22. For trainee positions, let's say 22. And this isn't for every single company, but oftentimes after your early 20s, that's when companies will actually feel bad if they just hire you for a free contract. And so out of respect for just the fact that you probably need to be making your own money at that point, they won't accept dancers after, you know, maybe let's say 22, 24. It really depends on the program, into an unpaid position. After which, you know, I'll say most of the time, it really doesn't matter if you're like 26 or I don't know, maybe even older, and you've had a couple like freelance professional things. If the proof is in the pudding and you're a really good dancer, no matter your age, it is still possible. You're still allowed to go to company auditions or email and request a private company audition where you just join the class, company class, and the director watches you. Honestly, at reasonably most any age in your 20s and 30s. So I think it is a total myth that you have to enter at 18 or like it's over. But I will say that if you're auditioning after that, let's say like the 24-year-old mark, or 22, some programs won't be available to you anymore that are like those transitional programs where you're not paid, but you gain exposure to this company, and then after a year or two, they might hire you on in a paid position. So some of those might not be available to you, but that doesn't mean that you can't still go directly into a paid position. Yes, it's harder. Yes, it's more rare, but it's, yes, also possible. So there is a myth around age and what your cutoff time is in the ballet industry. I think the question is, how worth it is it for you to still try at those ages? But that's really personal choice. All right, dancers. So I hope you really enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you haven't already. All right, dancers. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye. I'd love to hear from you. And other than that, I hope you subscribe to stick around for the next video. That's a follow-up to this one, like I mentioned. And I will see you next time. Bye.